will never try that. Pernah nggak? I will never try that. Have you ever, say something like that? I will never, ever, even if you pay me, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna try it. I'm not gonna go there. Pernah nggak? Yeah. Okay. Example? Food. What food that you don't want to try? Okay, food is one. What is it that you said? Oh, for food as well. For food, okay. How about for an experience? Anybody said, I will never try that? Yes, Lisa, what do you do? No, just have to say, okay. Anybody else? I will never do that. No, even if you pay me. Ada yang pernah ngomong gitu nggak? What about you, Roy?
Durian.
What's with durian? Come on, people. I said that a few times in my life, obviously. When I was smaller, I said, I will never eat salad. But then I went to the US. I went to the States and I walked into this restaurant called Sweet Tomatoes, not potatoes, sweet tomatoes. And then, wow, thank you, Lord, for the gift of salad. I did not know that vegetables can taste this good. I mean, I am so thankful that I try it and it has given my stomach a flavor. Instead of all meat, now there's some greens in it. So because of that, something that I'll never try, I try and it turns out better than I imagined. See, sometimes we have that same attitude, right? All of us are living for something. We say, I'm living for power, I'm living for money, I'm living for health or whatever it is. We have a vision for what a good life looks like. But then when we talk about God, we may say, you know what, yeah, sure, I believe in God, but I'm not going to go all the way. It doesn't sound fun. It sounds very demanding. It sounds like I have to sacrifice a lot. But then, some people stay away from the faith because they don't know what it tastes like. Some of us who dares to step inside, experience that. Turns out, living for God is something that is more beautiful, more wonderful, more glorious than we ever thought. And what is that life? Here we will see. You want to know what a good life is? Paul is going to give you he's going to paint you a picture. You want a good life? Live a life of service. That's a good life. In contrast to the world says, live a life for yourself, right? Live a life for your family. But God, the Bible, will teach us in a moment that no. Here's a vision of a good life. Here's a vision of a beautiful life. When you live your life like a servant. But what does it mean? Because servant sounds very, bad, right? And that's where we're going to look in our Bible. Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12, verse 3 until verse 8. Okay? So, the title is Serve Well, but my point is more towards that a good life. I believe that a good life is lived when we serve well. A good life is lived when we serve well. But how does that look like? We're going to look at verse 3 until verse 8. Okay? This is the ESV. I'm going to read it for you. Romans chapter 12, verse 3, verse 2, verse 8. For by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. For as in one body we have many members, and the members do not all have the same function, so we, though many, are one body in Christ, and individually members one of another. Having gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, let us use them. If prophecy, in proportion to our faith. If service, in our serving. The one who teaches, in his teaching. The one who exhorts, in his exhortation. The one who contributes, in his generosity. The one who leads with zeal. the one who does acts of mercy with cheerfulness. Amen. So let me give you the context. The context of Paul here is the local church. So I just said a good life is a life of service. But Paul is going to zone in even more specific. Okay, what kind of service? A good life involves participating in a local church. Whoa. For some of you, okay lah, I understand. I need to be a servant. I'm serving my customers, right? I'm serving my clients. But you are saying to me that a good life, it has to be, or at least it is driven towards a community of believers. You might say that, well, that's so far away from our experience, right? Because community of believers, community of faith, church, or other types of gathering of Christians can feel demanding or hard. It says that. I used to say it like this: like good people do good things, bad people do bad things, but for good people to do bad things, that takes religion. Also they say, right? Because and somehow, no, I don't want to serve in the church. I don't want to give my life to Christians because the church is so full of conflict, right? International conflicts is easier, nothing compared to local conflict in the church. So, such an exaggeration, right? But perhaps the reason why we are finding difficulty of finding community of faith or community of believers in church is such a perhaps not such a very attractive. It's because we don't know how to serve well. It's because we don't know, okay, well, what does it mean to serve well in the church, in the local community of believers. So let me help you with that. I have 3 points, and it has to do with how to have the right view. So if you want to serve well, number one, you got to have the right view of yourself. If you want to serve well, and again, the context is the church, and you're going to see what I mean later on, okay? Have the right view of yourself. And this is what Paul says in verse 3. For by grace given to me, I say to everyone among you not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. So Paul is saying this, okay, have the right view. Don't think too highly of yourself. So the number one enemy is when you overestimate yourself. That's bad, right? You tell people in the community, in the church, for instance, how smart you are, how rich you are, how successful you are, bragging. One of the things that I kind of finding a bit, I kind of don't like is that some people like to brag about who has the best discounts. Have you ever had, I get a deal, and wow, so cheap. And another friend says, really? I get a better deal. And like, okay, right? And it feels like it makes your search, it makes your hunting for the best price in vain, right? Because apparently you can always find someone who is, you can brag about who gets the cheaper price. See, it's like the message is all about I get the better price, right? People can brag about that. Look at me. Gila udah nyari susah-susah, ada yang dapat gratis misalnya. I'm looking for all these deals, and then somebody got it for free, right? Bragging. But there's one guy, I like this player. Yes, again, it's a soccer player. He's by the name of Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He would just turn 38, I think a couple of months ago, and he has this kind of a very cool attitude for me. But you will see that how he said about himself, okay? For instance, this is what he did. When the Arsenal manager offered him, he was a teenager, a trial. And this is what he said. Zlatan doesn't do auditions. And he mentioned in his was it third person? What do you call it? Yeah, right? Yeah. He mentioned in his third, this is how he talked, okay? Zlatan doesn't do auditions. And then on his ex-girlfriend engagement gift, what do you mean, present? She got Zlatan. You can try that later. Next, I like this. After scoring twice in Sweden for Euro 2016 over Denmark. So he's a Swedish player. He scored against Denmark. He said, there was the thought that this would send me into retirement because he's 30 plus. Because he got the goals, he said, I sent the entire country into retirement. Cool, eh? I mean, you have to be honest. I mean, he's a braggart, but the way he, arranged his sentence is like, wow, you sent the whole country into retirement? Wow. On silverware, meaning trophies. I don't need a trophy to tell me I'm the best. And then finally, what do you dream about? I don't need to dream. I am the dream. Ada orang kayak gini dan masih hidup. Someone like this actually lives, breathes, and exists. I mean, yeah, this is an example, right? It's a real example. Imagine you have mini Zlatans in your church. It's an attitude of toasting to self, and in the church, this kind of person might look like someone who feels that his opinion is the only one that matters, for instance. Why? Maybe because he's smarter than everybody else. I got all the answers. Or maybe he got the most experience. Right? I've done that, I know that, so that because he has the most experience, sometimes what end up in the church is he will ignore other people's contributions or gifts. For instance, because everyone in this room come from different backgrounds, right? Christian backgrounds. Some coming from a charismatic, Catholic maybe, evangelical, Chinese, diverse backgrounds, right? And when someone says, I've got the most experience, my way is the right way, he or she will what? Diminish the other gifts, right? The only way is the reformed way. So sometimes it can be like that. Either he feels that he's the smartest or has the most experience, but when you overestimate yourself, you also will not submit to leaders. And you also, at the same time, you won't serve someone beneath you. See? You won't submit, also won't serve. Because why? You feel entitled. I deserve this. I've got the most degrees. Someone said that my name compared to my title, because sometimes I wonder why is it. Sometimes when I preach at Petra, for instance, they always wrote all my degrees. So I was asking Pak Samuel, why is it you wrote all my degrees? Why not just, because your name is just Samuel Sugiarto MTH. Then he answered, oh, because in the academic circles, if your bachelor and your masters are different majors, different fields of study majors, then we have to write. So it's funny, my name is shorter than my degrees. So like, oh, because I had a different, because my bachelor in psychology, and then I got other things, It's like, oh, it's quite so long. See, my point is, because I got the most degrees, I'm the smartest around here, I've got the most experience, I've got the most white hair, is that true? I mean, and then, so automatically, I'm right all the time, you just shut up and follow me. Or at least they don't say it like that, but in bliss, I mean, maybe that's the attitude of the heart. So be careful of thinking too highly of yourself. But at the same time, you know what? Someone can overestimate in another form. Have you ever met someone who is trying to brag who is the lowest? Like for instance, this is something that I found, sorry, it's like sometimes when I notice when two girls met after such a long time, maybe I've told this before, they always try to outdo their praises. Hello Jane, wait, kurusan ya? Long time no see, you look thinner. And then what did the other person would say? No lah, you look thinner, right? And then the other will say, no, I still have to diet. And she weighs 50 kilograms, right? And she will go, oh, look at your skin, so soft. And then she will say, no lah, your skin is softer, is it? It's like back and forth, right? Try to, what are they looking for? Are they looking to humble themselves? I don't think so. That's what I would call merendah untuk meninggi. To go low in order to go high. Because they want to leave, so see, I'm praising you. When in fact what she wants is you also have to praise me. Right? There's one story. There's a man met with Dr. Lloyd Jones, the famed British pastor. He said like this, "Oh, Dr. Jones, I'm just a chimney sweep in the house of the Lord. Let me carry your suitcase. I'm a nobody. You're a man of great gifts." Dr. Jones saw through the man immediately and did not deal too kindly with him. Because when a person acts like that, "I'm just a nobody, let me carry your suitcase." The expectation is for Dr. Jones to answer like this, "No, no, 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 you are actually a great person." Right? So actually there's an implicitly that when you try to like brag how humble you are, maybe in effect you're trying to lift yourself up. So what Paul is saying, pay attention, is not to think too highly, but also not to think too low. But what did he say? He said to think with sober judgment. Sober. Kind of interesting word choice, yeah? Sober is contrast to what? Drunk. When you're drunk, you have a blurry vision, blurry memory, right? Something like that. So what Paul is saying is to be sober means you have to be rigorously accurate, completely in touch with reality. Yeah, to have to be in touch with reality. Paul does not say here, be humble or see others as better than yourself. Paul is saying you got to acknowledge what you are good at and what you can do. Just acknowledge, this is who I am, I've got this weakness, I've got this strength. When you know that, accurately self-assess. When you have that, you can serve others better. That's his point. Not think too highly, because if you think too highly, you'll be arrogant. Not think too lowly, because then you will be paralyzed or you have other motive. But to think accurately, so that you know what you're good at, what you're bad at, in order to serve better. You get the point? Yeah. It means that you realize that, yeah, your strength is not from yourself, it comes from God. But at the same time, your weaknesses doesn't disqualify you from following and serving the Lord. See, when you have an accurate view of yourself, you know who you are. By the grace of God, I know who I am. It's such a wonderful news. When you know who you are, you have the right view of yourself, you can stay away from envy, right? Number one, you stay away from envy. I am, by God's grace, I am who I am. You can refuse comparison. You don't have to compare with other people who are doing better than you or worse than you. And your light is not dimmed by other people's brighter light, if you know what I mean. Because sometimes I feel like when I met with other pastors, other evangelists, or my colleagues in ministry, I can find someone who's like, he can do, what I cannot do, he can do. What I can do, he can do better, a lot better. And then I can sometimes feel, then why do I exist? Just let him do the work, or just let her. Yeah, I feel like his or her light is so bright that my light doesn't compare. Just extinguish me, Lord, please. Of course not, right? Just because someone else's lights, like I'm using a mental picture here. Just because someone else's lights are bright doesn't mean that your light has to be extinguished. You can just shine as bright as well. You don't have to be threatened by other people's talents or success or achievements. Even if they achieve what you're doing in one day and you achieve in 10 years, it's fine. At least you do it in the first place. Because you know who you are by the grace of God. And you can say something like this. You can embrace the fact, Lord, I may not be what I want to be, but I can be what you call me to be. For instance, I want to do that, I want to be that. But reality, no. But rather than being in despair or consumed with jealousy, I can just say, I embrace the fact, I may not be what I want to be, but by your grace, by your sovereign power, I can be what you want me to be, what you call me to be, what you design me to be. And that's the best life. So you got to have a right view of yourself to serve well. Secondly, We have to have the right view of other Christians. Remember, the context again is fellowship, serving in a local church, in a local community of believers. Verse 4 to 5. For as in one body, we have many members, and the members do not all have the same function. So we, though many, are one body in Christ, and individually members of one another. Yeah, this is it's a roundabout way, in a way, of Paul saying that, as Christians in the church, we are one in Christ, but we are different. We are one in Christ, but we are different. When the church have a variety of people, a variety of backgrounds, a variety of giftings, the church is healthy. It's healthy. You don't want to have just one gift, one single gift, kind of like the most outstanding, and diminish the other gifts. Because some churches can be like that, right? But Paul said, no. Everyone is equal. Everyone is needed. The best illustration is obviously from 1 Corinthians 12:17, because Paul is using the metaphor of a body, right? Let me read to you. If the whole body were an eye, where would be the sense of hearing? If the whole body were an ear, where would be the sense of smell? But as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them as He chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, yet one body. Bineka tunggal ika. Right? It's the same. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. In the second part, Paul is saying, you know what? In the body of Christ, no one is self-sufficient. No one, but at the same time, no one is expendable. Or, no one can make it on their own. We need each other. At the same time, no one gets left behind. One pastor put it like this, very simple. In the church, no superstars and no one on the sideline. It's good, eh? Of course, you have positions, you have functions. You got the captain, you got the goalkeeper, the positions. But still, everybody can play, and nobody. The only superstar, if there is Jesus Christ. No superstars, and no one on the sideline. Everybody has to contribute. Everybody has to. Every member needs to be available, because everyone is precious. Now, why is it that we can? Obviously, this insight is not new, right? That we are the members of Christ. We are one. We need to contribute. Everyone is equal. We have different giftings. We have to healthy churches where everyone can contribute, right? The weak needs the strong, but the strong also needs the weak. Bonhoeffer said the elimination of the weak is the death of fellowship. I like that. The elimination of the weak is the death of fellowship. By the way, if you want to have, I can recommend you just one book on community. Read Dietrich Bonhoeffer's Life Together. It's the best. Very thin, but it's awesome. Okay. Anyway, move forward. So sometimes some of the things, at least I see, there are two things that kind of serve as a barrier for us to contribute in a church or to serve well. Number one, I think simple. Everyone is busy, right? It's busyness. I want to help, but I've got this and that. I've got just had my child has just been born, right? Things like that. So busyness is number one, usually the number one barrier to everyone contribute in the church. But I want to say to you, everyone is busy. Not just you, right? The fact is, whether we like it or not, everyone is busy. So I think it's not a business. I don't think the problem is busyness. The problem is priority, right? If it's important, you make time. Often, Christians don't think the community is that important. That's why we don't make time. As harsh as it sounds, right? We just don't think community. We think number one, my family, my job. Usually just like that, right? The church or community of believers is if I have time, or if I have the energy, or if there's no traffic in Surabaya. Right? It's not a matter of business, it's a matter of priority. If it's important to you, you'll make it. Or at least you'll try to work your schedule around it. So number one barrier to being yourself available is simply busy. And it's your choice. I cannot force you, I cannot make you, but I can pray for you. Right? Secondly, I think professionalism, the barrier to making contribution. Professionalism, where you find that, okay, we find the expert, he's the one who preaches, we pay him, we just sit down and listen to him. Right? Professionalism. Okay, he's the one who is he's one in charge of caring where other members are sick. We pay him or we assign him that position. He's the expert. He knows about counseling. So we just sit tight and be consumers. Right? Professionalism can destroy contribution because we feel like only certain elite Christians have to do the job or have to do all the ministry. But it doesn't work. I, for one, I cannot do it like that. It's just too much. And it's not healthy as well. My vision is always to have everyone take care of their own group, right? Everyone can contribute. Everyone can be leaders. And it doesn't take a professional to a certain extent. It takes a heart and the talent to serve. But both are important. Someone who is godly and someone who is gifted. Both are important. And we'll see why. Because sometimes you're just, okay, as long as he's kind and nice and good, doesn't matter if he can't sing, just put him on the music team. No. Godly, yes, but also gifted, okay? And why? I'll explain the next point. But my point in this the second point is, in a church, you want to serve well, you gotta appreciate others. You gotta know that that you are put here in the church to appreciate, to love, welcome, lead, and everyone is needed. Every member needs to be available. At least the one thing that you can do is be available. Just be available. That is in itself is a first good start. So. Finally, the third one. Have the right view of yourself, have the right view of other Christians, and now have the right view of your gifts. This is a cool part, because now you have all these gifts, okay? You want to serve well, you got to have the weapon, right? So verse 6 to verse 8. Having gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, that's a clue. Everybody got a different gifts, okay? Let's not be envious for others. Some people have talents that is worth the whole warehouse. Some people, like me, maybe not many, something, I don't know. But everyone has gifts, at least one. Okay, so let us use them. If prophecy, in proportion to our faith. If service, in our serving. The one who teaches in his teaching. The one who exhorts in his exhortation. The one who contributes in generosity. The one who leads with zeal. The one who does acts of mercy with cheerfulness. Let me explain. Okay, so here Paul mentions 7 charismata. Charismata. It simply means gifts of grace. Okay, or these are gifts that are a manifestation of God's grace. God is full of grace. He gives us some gifts on the way. Okay, now mind you, doesn't mean that we only have 7 gifts. No, the list is not exhaustive. Okay. If you want to know about spiritual gifts, you can find it in 1 Corinthians 12. You can find it in Ephesians chapter 4. The point is, everyone, if you're a Christian, at least will have one gift. Pasti punya. Okay? And if you feel like you don't have one, probably you limit yourself to only certain gifts. Right? You might think, oh, spiritual gift must be something like prophecy, or something like healing, or something like, and usually people like the supernatural spiritual gifts, right? The bombastic ones. Usually there are 3: prophecy, healing, speaking in tongues, right? Those 3 are like the favorite one. But then we forget the other gifts. Sometimes I don't have those 3. Well, there are more than 3. Okay? So at least everyone has one gift. Now, the point here is God gives different people different gifts that are needed for the work of the gospel to flourish. Now, partly it is a matter of what we call natural temperament. I mean, some people are natural born leaders, right? You're a leader, you like to lead, and then when you become a Christian, maybe God gave you a gift of leading. It's possible. So what you naturally have gets enhanced. That's what happens in Exodus chapter 35 with Bezalel. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's like a tukang besi. What do you call that? Stone mason? No, not a stone mason. Sorry, iron. Yeah. The one who basically builds the Ark of the Covenant, the temple. Sorry. So he was like an architect and a contractor. That's his job, and then God fills him with the Spirit, and then he becomes, kind of an enhanced version of himself. To put it, there's more to simplify. Okay. So sometimes people are natural born leaders, natural born teachers. Some people are naturally open and generous. If you met people like that, just generous. It's just this natural thing. Do you know what I want to be when I was growing up? Cita-cita saya, tahu nggak? Some of you maybe don't. Not many of you know. My cita-cita, my dream was not to stand up and talk to people like this. I'm an introvert. I told you this many times. You know what my childhood dream was?
Pilot.
I wanted to be a writer. So unfortunately, someone else has stolen Harry Potter from me. So, so maybe some of you are natural. So it can be something natural, and then God gives you, and you will utilize your gifts in a way that is in line with the kingdom of God. Or for some of you, it's possible that something that you don't know, like God's Spirit can take over your life and new gifts emerge. You don't know that you can do this. And then suddenly, hey, I can teach. Hey, I can prophesy. Hey, I can lead. I can does acts of mercy. You don't know this. At least that's what happened to me. I did not know. I did not want to teach. And at least, a few decades ago. And then when I was involved in ministry, when God saved me and I got involved in a local church, then suddenly my pastor, hey, do you want to lead worship? Hey, do you want to lead Bible study? Hey, can you preach this week? Whoa. Suddenly, there's a new gift. I did not know I have that. Turns out that I'm not that bad. So, either way, at least you have one. So let me give you a quick rundown, okay? What are some of the gifts? And when I go through this, I hope that you will reflect on yourself and maybe kind of okay, which gift is closest to me? Okay. So number one is the gift of prophecy. I like it because we start at the most controversial gift. Not going to be long, but prophecy should not be equated with preaching. Okay. I'm sorry, John Calvin. I'm going to go against you now because Calvin said the gift of prophecy is preaching. Okay, when you preach, you convict people's heart, right? So that's like prophecy, God saying something to you. So John Calvin said prophecy is like preaching, but I disagree. Prophecy, I think, is something more like this. Prophecy, this is a New Testament scholar, he said, is the reception of spontaneous revelations from God, and such words instruct, encourage, and warn the people of God. So it's spontaneous. You're not reading from the Bible. You're not doing meditation, but suddenly you feel like there's a word that you got to speak to others. That's prophecy. Spurgeon had this. Charles Spurgeon, he told a few things when he was preaching in the hall. He said on one occasion, suddenly during his sermon, he pointed to a man in the midst of the crowd. You there! And he said, there's a man sitting there who is a shoemaker. He keeps his shop open on Sundays. And then he said that he cheated about his money or something. And it's true. So, that is something like that. And Spurgeon said, I could tell as many as a dozen similar cases in which I pointed at somebody in the hall, in the service, without having the slightest knowledge of the person or any idea that what I said was right, except that I believe I was moved by the Spirit to say it. Now, I know this can be a long discussion, and we don't have time for that right now, right? Because prophecy can be, but the thing with prophecy is the purpose of prophecy is not necessarily, and most likely, it's not about giving prophecy in the future, you know. Nubuatan bukan ramalan. Okay, prophecy is not fortune telling. Okay? In fact, according to one statistic, most of the prophecy in the Old Testament, only 10% is about future. Okay, about future telling. Most of prophecy is forth-telling, which means today. You are doing something wrong in the eyes of God, you got to change. Usually prophecy has that kind of convicting power in it. You know? You there, that's a sin, stop it. Something like that. So prophecy can be used for, but it can be used for, to instruct, encourage, and most of the time, warn people. You're living in sin, you're worshipping idols, stop it. Go back to the Lord. That's the gift of prophecy. Okay? But be careful to use it, because I know it can be easily abused. Right? It's like, for instance, back in 2016, there's a fellowship where she heard the voice of God that tells him to ask her congregation, husband and wife, to split, to get a divorce, and then the husband divorced his wife, and then a few days, I don't know, and then later on, she felt that God also spoke to her, and she divorced her husband. And another voice from God came to tell her that you have to marry that husband, the recently divorced. It happened. Okay, it happened. You can read it if you want. Later on, I'll tell you which. In Surabaya. In Surabaya. Okay, that happened in Surabaya. So basically, okay, you two divorce. Why? He said because your spirit and her spirit is not longer in sync. Bahasa Indonesia, rohnya diangkat, yang satunya rohnya nggak diangkat. There's a doctrine of lifting the soul. Lifting the spirit, I don't know. And then he divorced his wife, she divorced her husband, and they got married. It can be dangerous. So obviously that doesn't work. Why? Because it is in direct contradiction of the Bible, right? The Bible never permits someone to divorce, much less ordering someone else to divorce. Right? This is ordering, you get divorced. And they did. I don't know. So be careful about prophecy, but used wisely, it can be a blessing. That's why Paul says in 1 Corinthians, go after. I like you to all speak in tongues, but more, I like you all to prophesy. Right? Secondly, secondly is the gift of service. Right? Service in the Greek, there is diakonia. Familiar, yeah? For many of you, especially coming from evangelical background, diakonia, it means practical service. Okay? So people with this gift are good at practical tasks usually and good at administration. Okay? Diakonia are great team workers and they do not need the spotlight. That's diakonia. It's just, people who are behind the scene. For instance, we have to appreciate the work of Yosi and Pak Yafet and Pak Amir here. People who are on the background. When everything goes right, they don't get praise. But when one thing gets wrong, they get blamed. Right? That's the joy and the sorrow of multimedia and soundman. Right? Everything goes right, no one will say, "Thank you, Pak, you're doing such a wonderful job." No one. But when something small goes wrong, the slide is, wrong slide, or the voice is, and then wow, and everybody just look, right? where is that, right? Sometimes we forget that this is also okay. We need to appreciate people who are doing practical service. Okay, so if you have a heart, you serve. And then next is teaching. Teaching, well, the difference is with prophecy is quite spontaneous. Something that is not from the Bible, right? Something God just spoke to you and you need to feel like you have to say it. But you have to test it. But anyway, with teaching, it's something that is more settled, okay? Not spontaneous. It's more like studying the Bible, looking up the dictionary, the commentary, all of that, and then you dig the passage, you have an effort, right? So that's teaching. So if you're the type of person, perhaps you have the gift of teaching. And then exhortation, verse 8. Exhortation, the idea is to come alongside, okay? Exhort, to come alongside, okay? So I would say, practically in the church, this might look like someone who is like the counselor type, okay? Counselor type, who can gives, who can inspire, encourage, comfort, you know? People with the exhortation gift, they can serve as advisors, supporters, preachers, and welcomers also can, right? Because they have a joyful look in their eyes or something like that, yeah? And then next two, last one, the next three. What else besides exhortation? The one who contributes, giving. I like this gift. I don't know why people want to have the gift of tongues exclusively sometimes. If I can choose, I want to have the gift of giving. Because that means I have to receive a lot first from God. So, I mean, how can I give you if I don't have much, right? So maybe the gift of giving means I have to have much first. I have to have much first so I can give, right? So perhaps this giving is basically means, you know, someone who enjoys giving in unusual proportions. But at the same time, someone who are wise in their gifts. Okay? So if you are generous by nature, you want to contribute, that's the top of your heart, perhaps you have the gift of giving. And then leadership, right? Oh, leaders, so important right now, so important. We lack this leaders in the church. I mean, seminarians, we are trained more in Bible theology, and that's it, right? Leadership, church management, church conflict, accounting, managing finances, we lack in that. And today, perhaps, we would need more of these people. What one would call spiritual entrepreneurs. That's the cool name right now, spiritual entrepreneurs. They are the people, because I think number one, why we need this type, they are the people who are willing to take risks, you know, someone who is bold, you got vision, a lot of people are following them. These leaders usually are not content with the status quo. These leaders, they are usually biased towards doing something, biased towards action. We have a lot of thinkers in the church, I mean, a lot of thinkers, okay? But doers, not many, right? Doers, not many. So these leaders are someone who, okay, we try something new, shake up the old, start the new, and lead into a better tomorrow. And there's one statistic that's quite interesting. If a church is ever going to reach more than 200 people on the weekend service, the church will require leaders who are skilled in organizational leadership, not just relational leadership. It's kind of, I think that's an important insight. Which means, if your church want to have, you know, bigger than 200 according to one statistics, you need to have a pastor who not just a shepherd type, but also a CEO kind of type. Okay? Because you need management and all of these things. Maybe now we need it more. Especially with the culture that's so against Christianity, we need someone like this. That's my personal opinion. Finally, mercy. Right? Mercy is the one who does acts of mercy with cheerfulness. Mercy is a gift of people, especially moved to work with the poor, the sick, the weak, prisoner, the addicted, the elderly, and so on. Okay? So if you are attracted to the weak people, you have a gift of mercy. Because some people, when they look at like weak or poor, they'll, okay, that's not for me. I don't know how to talk with them, right? Some people are just like that. They'll help you, they'll support you, maybe in giving, maybe in teaching, but taking care of them, some people have the gifts of mercy. When somebody is sick, the joke is you have two types of pastor when someone is sick at the hospital. You want a pastor who specializes in healing, or you want a pastor who specializes in going home. Going home to heaven. You know, jadi mau yang mana nih? Jadi bisa ada, ibu mau sembuh atau mau pulang? Some denominations, they specialize in healing. Some denominations, they specialize in going home. Okay, I'm still okay, invite the pastor from that denomination because they believe in healing, right? But if, okay, no choice, I give up everything, then invite the pastor who over there with the sovereignty thingy. Come. The point of mercy is, you know, someone who is attracted to the weak, and that's maybe for you. See, the point of all of this, and I hope one will fit towards your temperament or your desire right now. But let me close with two summary about this. Number one, when talking about gifts, that means when you put people in positions that they are not gifted, that is actually not good. That is actually a denial of the diversity and the giftedness of the body of Christ. Let me repeat that. When you put people not in the positions of their gifting, perhaps you are denying the diversity and the giftedness of the body of Christ. Or let me put it more simpler. The right man in the right place is theological. Okay? The right man in the right place is good. The problem sometimes in the church is, rather than, look at this, the one who teaching, the one who exhorts. Sometimes we say, can't sing, are singing. In church, right? What? Can't play, are playing. Can't communicate, are preaching. Can't lead, are leading. I know it's a difficult position, right? Sometimes he goes, well, he loves doing it. I mean, he's been doing it for years because I know he sounds sumbang, he's a phallus, but he's been doing it for years, right? So what should I tell him and things like that. But imagine this. You would not settle for this anywhere else, right? Imagine going to a restaurant and I don't want someone who's cook. I don't want a chef to cook my food. No, right? You want the best. You want someone who's gifted in cooking to serve you the food. Or imagine going to hospital, right? You are not going to get your heart operated by a cleaning service at the hospital, right? You want the right man on the job. You won't settle for this anywhere else. But in the church, sometimes we are tempted to settle. The greatest tragedy when you are not in the position of your gifting is that the person in question never ends up serving in the area of their greatest giftedness. That's the tragedy, right? They never serve in the area of their giftedness and they will miss out kind of like the best they can do. But when they find it, when people find their gift, they feel better and they serve better. As simple as that. They feel better about themselves because they find, I was born for this. You can tell, right? Someone like Dave, for instance. It's not here, so we can talk about him. No, just kidding. Someone like Dave, for instance, you can see that immediately. That's his passion, right? Singing, worship. You can see. You can feel better. I'm doing this because God designed me to do this. And they will serve better. Better impact. Greater impact. And finally, second, so the right man in the right place is theological. It's good. Okay? So wherever you are put in the position of your gifting, some people can, they might not fit in certain places. Obviously, many factors. We don't have time to discuss it now. But I believe that everyone has a gift and has a fit that works. I believe everyone has a gift and has a fit that works. And finally, most of the tasks in verse 7 to verse 8, they involve hard work. It's not just, I got the gift of teaching and then suddenly I don't need to study, just 5 minutes before service, whatever the first come, please Lord, let me preach. No. Okay? It involves hard work. It involves people who is like, do it properly, plan the work, think it through, get up early, get on with it. Wright said like this, expect to work till you are tired and to keep at it even on the days when you are not in the mood. You can't just play at it when you feel like it. Christian service is not a hobby. Although sometimes people think of it like that, right? Christian service is a divine calling. Amen. It's a calling. That means if right now I have a gift of teaching or you have a gift of teaching, I would think it through, I would prepare, I would work at it. I will spend time so that up here I come prepared. And whatever gift, if your gift is leading, do it properly. If your gift is exhortation, do it properly. Not just, you can just do it on the fly. No. Work at it, improve it, and don't give up on it. In the end, I would say that we serve because God has served us first. Right? Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. The best life is lived by service. And we know that from Jesus Christ himself. He lived a life of service. He had an accurate view of himself, accurate view of others, and he utilized his gifts properly. And I pray that we will do that too. Know about yourself. Have an accurate view of yourself. Not too high, not too low, but you know who you are. And suddenly, appreciate other people. They are your brothers and sisters, especially who are believers. Okay? Work with them. Help them when they're down. Celebrate when they're on their way up. And finally, know your gifts so that you can have a greater impact for the church and for the world. Let us pray.